Shalom, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, before we get this epistle started, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to our beloved Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, our beloved Lord and Savior, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Harakha Kodash. Double honor as always to our beloved elder apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone who rule well, who teach well, who we learn the truth from daily, whether you hear forbear, and a sincere salutation as always to the rest of the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel, which consists of our sincere elders in Akim of Great Millstone and the Akim on down, that teach the likewise doctrine and all truth and sincerity with diligence. The speckled-bearer Hebrew Israelite foreigners scattered among the heathen, that look like the heathen, the sincere Akim of the nation of Israel that rehearse the righteous acts of Yahweh Bashmi Shai in truth and sincerity, and the sincere Akwath that listen in silence and meekness as the scriptures command to do so. And this is just a quick epistle I wanted to get through the spirit. I put this lesson together about yesterday. Just wanted to not had a chance to get into it. And this is going to be entitled 5 Laws You're Not Keeping Perfect. Okay, because you got a lot of Israelites out here that don't understand the scriptures. All right, they don't understand the grace that we're under Yahweh Shah HaMashiach's sacrifice. All right, and then you also have these hypocritical Christians that don't even, these so-called Christians, the plantation anti-Christians that don't even try to keep the Lord's laws. All right, and the Lord says these laws aren't done away with. So whatever laws that you can keep within your means, you're actually supposed to keep. You see. Now, that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get the first precept, getting into the law. All right, the book of Exodus, chapter 31 and verse 12. All right. And the subject says, the sign of the Sabbath. And the Lord Yahweh spake unto Mashah, saying, Speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, Verily my Sabbaths ye shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that ye may know that I am the Lord Yahweh, that doth sanctify you. Right? And to sanctify means to cleanse. Okay, so the Lord, he basically is cleansing us. And that's another reason why the elder apostle Tahar, he touches upon that aspect of the Sabbath when it says in the Ten Commandments, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. All right, the elder, he always raises the question, how do you keep the Sabbath holy? You keep it holy by keeping yourself holy. All right, meaning that you don't have sex with your woman. All right, you don't buy and sell. Okay, you don't, light any fires in your habitations. Now, obviously, when you get into the technicalities of the law, no one can keep the Sabbath perfectly, because if you have to go to camp or, stuff of that nature, you technically light a fire every time you cut your car on. You see, but that's where grace comes in. So the whole point of this epistle is to basically bring to your attention and your remembrance that none of us are keeping the law perfectly, and we all need Yahweh Shai. But for those who don't want to acknowledge Yahweh Shai, your blood will be on your own head. You'll have to pay for, where you fall short in the law by the first covenant standard, and you can't handle the first covenant standard. Exodus chapter 31, verse 14. Ye shall keep the Sabbath, therefore, for it is holy unto you. Every one that defileth it shall surely be put to death. For whosoever doeth any work therein, that soul shall be cut off from his people. 6 days may work be done, but in the seventh is the Sabbath of rest, holy to the Lord Yahweh. Whosoever doeth any work in the Sabbath day, he shall surely be put to death. All right. Wherefore the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath, to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations for a perpetual covenant. You see, so this goes back into the covenants and the promises and the giving of the law only pertaining to the Israelites. All right, the Sabbath also is a covenant between us and the Heavenly Father. Verse 17, it is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. For in 6 days the Lord Yahweh made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed. Right, so ultimately, that means technically by that law, okay, you can't do any telework, any physical work, none of that you're supposed to do in the Sabbath. You see? So what happens? We need Yahweh Shai. So this is a cut to anybody talking about they keep the law perfectly. And also, all right, the first day of a month, of a Hebrew month, starts with the new moon. So you count from the new moon. The new moon will be the first day of a Hebrew month, and it is the first Sabbath. All right, so on new moons, you're supposed to treat them like Sabbaths. The same regulations apply. You see? So the new moon being the first day of the month, okay, that's your first Sabbath. And then the next Sabbath after that will technically be the 8th day of the month, because you have to count working days as well. All right, the new moon Sabbath would be day 1 of the entire Hebrew month, as well as the first Sabbath. And then after that, for the next because the Hebrew days start at evening, which is, sunset. So you have your first sunset, which is the new moon. That's also the first day of the month and, the first day period of that month. And it's Sabbath number one. Then right after that, the next evening, you have day number 2 of the month, which is the first working day. All right. And then you count from there. Then you have the third, day number 2 would be your first working day. Day number 3, all right, would be your second working day, so forth and so on. And then by the time you get to the literal 8th day of that week, okay, that's your second Sabbath. All right. So these are things you have to know whenever somebody tries to toss the law at you, because Friday sundown to Saturday sundown is not always a mandatory Sabbath. The Sabbath is also determined by the new moon. That's why, when you get the understanding of the law and the precepts, it lets you know that the Sabbath is, the new moon, it dictates the Sabbath. That's why when you get that word in the Hebrew, it's Chadash, which means new moon, new month. Okay, because the moon refreshes when it's new. All right. And when it does that, that's also how a new month is started. Okay, so that was the first law. Now let's get this real quick. Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 15. And it reads, if a man have 2 wives, one beloved and another hated, and they have both borne him children, both the beloved and the hated, and if the firstborn son be hers that was hated, this is what you're supposed to do. Did it say you were supposed to divorce one because your new wife don't like the old? No. All right. Verse 16. Then it shall be when he maketh his sons to inherit that which he hath, that he may not make the son of the beloved firstborn before the son of the hated, which is indeed the firstborn. Okay. Verse 17, but he shall acknowledge the son of the hated for the firstborn by giving him a double portion of all that he hath. For he is the beginning of his strength. The right of the firstborn is his. You see? So for you jakes that got money, all right, if you're doing that normal American Babylonian crap of, when it comes to Israelite women anyway, if you call yourself keeping the law, if you call yourself doing that, but you putting your woman away, say for the cause of adultery, / fornication, then you going off. All right, you cause her to commit adultery. You ain't supposed to be putting your women away if they're not committing adultery. You're not supposed to get a week for any of your women and be like, okay, well, Sasha don't like such and such. Sasha don't like Keisha, so I gotta put, well, Keisha don't like Sasha, so I gotta put Sasha. Wait, no, nigga, you are supposed to deal accordingly, So giving an example, like a hypothetical scenario in this law for those that claim that they keep the law, and you Israelites, that crap that IUIC be talking about, that's off. This is another reason why the elder apostles always say that they basically they causing you to sin, because if you have women that you're dealing with, nothing in the law says you're supposed to put your women away unless they commit fornication or adultery, But you got a lot of jakes that go by this American effeminate mandatory monogamy mentality, and that's not scriptural. So for those that claim that they keep the law, you going off if you putting your wife away for anything other than adultery against you. You see? So I'll read this once more and I'll give a hypothetical scenario. Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 15. If a man have 2 wives, one beloved and one hated. Let's just say your beloved wife is Sasha or somebody. She's your second wife. Okay. And another hated. Let's say that's Keisha. That's your first wife. And they have borne him both children, both the beloved and the hated. And if the firstborn son be hers that was hated, meaning let's just say that firstborn was through Keisha. And I'm not saying that she's an actual Keisha. I'm just throwing a name out there. All right. Then it shall be when he maketh his sons to inherit that which he hath, that he may not make the son of the beloved firstborn before the son of the hated, which is indeed the firstborn. But he shall acknowledge the son of the hated for the firstborn by giving him a double portion of all that he hath, for he is the beginning of his strength. The right of the firstborn is his. Right. So this applies to Israelites, because you might try to say, well, in the situation with Abraham, Sarah, and Hagar, Ishmael, he was the firstborn, but he was put away. That was through the Spirit, because the Lord already knew which son he was going to deal with and continue the chosen lineage through, because it's spiritual and it manifests physical. But as far as Israelites are concerned, this was typically how we dealt. Once again, this whole epistle is about bringing to light how strict our laws really are for you jakes that claim that you keep the law. All right. And especially this is a good one for you Jakes that have money and like to claim that you keep the law, because you're supposed to deal accordingly. All right. Especially, if you these are Israelite women you're dealing with and they not demons, and no one's trying to keep you away from your son and this and that. This is how you're supposed to deal as the man. You're not supposed to let them run you and pit you against one or the other. All right. Now, once again, that's just how it goes. All right. For those that want to claim that they keep the law. Now, the next law I had on the list was Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 8. And it reads, when thou buildest a new house, then thou shalt make a battlement for thy roof, that thou bring not the blood upon thine house if any man fall from thence. Okay, so for you Jakes that like to be on your land grabs and stuff like that, or you Jakes that have enough money to actually build a house from the ground, you supposed to put a battlement on your house, which that's those little roofs. That's like when you have a rooftop house and you see those little balconies, the little railings on the balconies and stuff, whether it be made of stone or brick or whatever. All right, that's supposed to be there just in case. Let's just say you got like a little rooftop setting or whatever. You just chilling out there with some bros one day and y'all just drinking or eating or whatever you doing. All right, just in case Jake get drunk or something like that, nobody falls off the house and then you're not responsible for another brother's death. You see, now let's prove that real quick by getting the word for battlement. They may or may not have been specific about it in the blue letter. I might have to go to the etymon, but the Hebrew word is Strong's H4624, and we have the ma, the I, the qua, and the ha. So ma, qua. Outline of biblical usage: a parapet, a low wall at the edge of a balcony, roof, etc., or along the sides of a bridge, etc. So you basically know what that is, a repress. Okay, so in our law, for those of you that claim you keep the laws, the statutes, the commandments, like your IUICs, all right, if you build a house from the ground up, here in Babylon the Great or whatever you built it, you supposed to be a man of the Lord. You're supposed to put a battlement on your house. All right, just a little quick law right there. And that's for anybody, not just IUIC. Any of you jakes that's claiming that you in the truth and you keep the law, especially you Old Testament only, clowns. Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 9, thou shalt not sow thy vineyard with diverse seeds, lest the fruit of thy field, lest the fruit of thy seed, which thou hast sown, and the fruit of thy vineyard be defiled. So once again, you're not supposed to, this is another law. You're not supposed to sow your field with diverse seeds. So you're not supposed to sow, let's say, for example, you're not supposed to put your carrot seeds, sow them alongside your, trying to think of a vegetable, trying to think of a few, your corn or whatever you consider it, all right? Whatever you got going on, you see? So this is another reason why, nobody can just throw the law at anybody. You're supposed to read the law like the Elder Yashawamba says and be crushed by how much you really can't keep. This is why our righteousness is of Yahweh Shai, because if we were going by our own righteousness, the Lord Yahweh said, our righteousness itself is but filthy rags, but Yahweh Shai is how we're made clean. Okay, and once again, this is for who it applies for. All right, that's the other thing about grace. The Lord's not holding us to standards that we can't keep. Once again, we're bound to keep the law that we can keep, but once again, we're under grace. So for those that have this situation, if you got a vineyard or whatever you got going on where you can actually sow crops and stuff, this is how you're supposed to deal. Now, the last precept I had, and this is just a little, like the scriptures say in the blue letter, sundry laws and stuff like that. So there's various laws within the law. Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 10, thou shalt not plow with an ox and an ass together. You see? And I got into it, all right, looking into just the technicalities of why, because a lot of jakes, they read these short laws that are only like a few words to a verse, and they don't go deep. They assume that the Lord is just saying stuff and they overlook it. But I looked into it, and apparently, the reason being goes back to one of those laws. Let me get that. Deuteronomy 25, verse 4. And it reads, thou shalt not muzzle the ox when he treadeth out the corn. Right. So essentially, when an ox is basically, when you have your ox working in the field, essentially, if it's working, by the corn and stuff like that, the law basically dictates you allow the ox to eat some of the crop that it's grazing by, so it can be fed while it's working. You see. Now, likewise, I looked into it. You don't want to plow an ox and an ass, which is a donkey, together, because they have different eating habits. And I looked into it as well. They're also used in different farming situations. You see. Now, a ass would be used in a situation where you don't have like a big plot of land and stuff like that. You know, it says donkeys are sure-footed and they're good for like rocky terrains and stuff. But an ox, you know, they're heavier, so they would be used by jakes that would have more money. You see, so it's a good practice not to do so. So the Lord is just basically showing you a lot of different things that are in our laws that, you know, Jake probably wouldn't even care to keep. And I'm gonna get one last one, you know, one extra precept. But well, I got two extra ones. You know, I wanted to at least get these five. Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 11. Thou shalt not wear a garment of diverse sorts, as of woolen and linen together. You see, and that's that mixed fabric law you may hear a lot from the elder apostles of Great Millstone and the elder bishops. Okay? Salakia. And Jake's not keeping that for a fact. You know, unless it's a Jake that got money and he's real meticulous, because even if you have like a shirt that says 100% linen or something like that here in the Babylon the Great, if the tag ain't the same material, you still went off. You see? So that being said, you know, woolen, all right, typically we will wear woolen garments, you know, or woolen in the cold seasons, and linen would be more for the hot seasons, because when you get into the law about the priests, they're supposed to wear linen breeches. Reason being is because they weren't supposed to sweat within the temple. You see, we have a lot of different various laws that Jake aren't aware of before they try to call themselves the chief high priest and this and that, and want to walk around like they're the law man. No, you're not. All right. And you know, this is another reason why Jake has eczema. And the Lord has certain ways of manifesting, you know, that Jake is going off. You know, we're not supposed, our skin, we're not supposed to have mixed fabrics to the best of our ability. Now, certain Israelites, the Lord don't put eczema on them, but the point is, you know, even without that, you know, having different garments of, you know, fabrics of garments on, it messes up our frequency. This is another reason why Jake be bugged the hell out. Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 12, thou shalt make the fringes upon the four quarters of thy vesture, wherewith thou covereth thyself. So this is the law of the fringes. But they have the ribbon of blue, the fringes, all right? Pretty straightforward. And we already got into the history of the fringes before, all right? Because, you know, there was a Jake that was working on the Sabbath. Let me get that. Numbers chapter 30, Salakia, 28. Sometimes I get the numbers mixed up on that one. Numbers chapter 20. Continual offering. No, it might be 25. Pure. That was Phineas. 26, 27. It might have been the law of inheritance. No. 7th month. I'll just type in there. Salakia. Deuteronomy. Okay, yeah, there it goes. Numbers chapter 15, verse. Yeah, I'll get the context above. Numbers chapter 15, verse 32. And while the children of Israel were in the wilderness, they found a man that gathered sticks upon the Sabbath day. Right, we weren't supposed to work. So 33. And they that found him gathering sticks brought him unto Mashah. I'll read that once more. Numbers chapter 15, verse 33. And they that found him gathering sticks brought him unto Mashah and Aharon and unto all the congregation, and they put him in ward, because it was not declared what should be done to him. And the Lord Yahweh said unto Mashah, the man shall surely be put to death. All the congregation shall stone him with stones without the camp. And all the congregation brought him without the camp and stoned him with stones, and he died, as the Lord Yahweh commanded Mashah. That's how serious not keeping the Sabbath is, as I just got in the very first precept I had in this lesson. Numbers chapter 15, verse 37. The Lord Yahweh spake unto Mashah, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, and bid them that they make them fringes in the borders of their garments throughout their generations, and they that put upon the fringe of the borders a ribbon of blue. It's like, and that they put upon the fringe of the border a ribbon of blue. So that's basically why you see us wear what we wear on the highways and the byways. And this is the reason, verse 39, and it shall be unto you for a fringe, that ye may look upon it and remember all the commandments of the Lord Yahweh and do them, and that ye seek not after your own heart and your own eyes, after which ye use to go a whoring, that ye may remember and do all my commandments, and be holy unto your power. I am the Lord Yahweh, your power, which brought you, which brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your power. I am the Lord Yahweh, your power. And this is the reason why we wear the fringes, all right? This is why also the elders got on IUIC a while back, because they had a situation where Jake had committed adultery with another man's wife within the congregation. Like the way they like to wear the t-shirt fringes, which is going off. You're supposed to wear a garment down to your foot and put fringes in a border of blue. But to show you that spirit of disobedience, the dude basically, took a picture of his rod and sent it to his friend's wife or whatever, and went back and basically shook his hand like everything was cool. But the point is, he did that while wearing the fringes. So this goes to show you just how wicked Jake is. The whole purpose of wearing fringes is not a fashion statement, because Jake always want to we make something a fashion statement, but it's a cultural and spiritual significance behind the fringes. You wear it to remind you not to sin when you look down at the fringes. But that means Jake would have had to look down at the fringes and still sent the dick pic to his friend's wife. Now, the whole point is not to bring up that again, but the point is to just show that, look, these are laws that Jake are not keeping perfectly, so you need Yahweh Shai. And like the other one said, Yahweh Shai, he's the true fringe upon your mind. When you think about Yahweh Shai, you're supposed to flee from sin. Okay, and also, once again, we can't wear the fringes everywhere we go, because once again, in the land of our captivity, you have to move circumspect, and that's where the grace of Yahweh Shai comes in. All right, and the Heavenly Father Yahweh himself sees that, so he's not judging you for not wearing fringes on every garment. That's why, even the elders and the brothers make jokes about these jakes that are just trying to be super Hebrews. They doing too much, where you don't got to wear the fringes all the time. You just primarily wear them on the highways and the byways, and when you do video epistles, and that's pretty much it. All right, but that's all I have this epistle. Just a quick hit. Once again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Harachak Wadash. Double honor as always to our beloved elder apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone, who rule well, who teach well, who we learn the truth from daily, whether you hear forbearance. His citation as always to the rest of the hopeful elected nation of Israel. Shalom.